Okay, I have just sprayed in here. As you guys know, there's two types of primer. We've gone over it and over again in class or on our Zoom meetings. They are self-etching primer and epoxy primer. You guys have seen me spray enough primer now. You don't need to watch that. Let's try and keep this short. I have just sprayed a coat of self-etching primer on this bare aluminum. Remember, I sanded this down with 180. Now I've put you can see it's transparent, very transparent primer. It does have a slight tinge of brown to it, but now it's gonna dry for about 10 minutes and I'll be spraying epoxy primer on it next. Okay guys, I just walked out of there. I showed you the self-etching primer and now I'm gonna spray epoxy primer on there. And one thing you need to remember is that self-etching primer is like an acid, and it's biting into that. So technically, I can actually spray epoxy primer over top of those 180 grit scratches, and it's supposed to stick. But aluminum's a bit different, so we're going to spray some epoxy primer on there. Plus, I need a little bit of fill because those scratches that I tried to sand out, I stopped sanding, so we're gonna prime it, let it sit overnight, then we'll sand it down and go from there. All right, I put 2 good coats of epoxy primer on there, and this is an actual guide coat here. It's kind of like a powder, but you guys, we're talking about guide coats right now in our readings and stuff that we're doing. And basically, as you know, and if you're not in my class and you just happen to be watching this, what it does is, if you guys remember from the video when I sanded it, those gouges that were in there, you can still kind of see them. I didn't sand them all the way out because the aluminum would have gotten too thin. Well, what's going to happen is, this guide coat will lay in any imperfections, and when we sand it, they'll show up. It'll help us see anything that's wrong with it. Like the back edge of this thing is a little ripply. I know this is getting hung from the ceiling. It's just for display purposes only, but we still want it to look nice. So we'll sand that tomorrow. All right, guys. It's a new day. See the sun shining through the windows there, nice and bright this morning. Remember, I primed that scoop yesterday, and I put a guide coat on it. Now I'm going to. There's a couple little. Let me switch this camera around to the front face. There we go. There is some imperfections, and I'm not talking about just like the scratches. I'll show you the scratches. Like you can see those little divots. They'll show up because of the guide coat. But there is a couple little. Can you see? It's actually an eyebrow. Try and get to where you can see it. Let's see if I can find it. Well, anyway, there's an eyebrow right in here. That's what they call it. And there's a little outie right in there. That's what we call them. And some ripples across the back. I'm going to try and tap that eyebrow down. I think the ripples and everything will sand out. But I'm going to hit this thing with probably like some 320 on a DA. We'll see. I've got a couple layers of cardboard because this thing, where it's aluminum, is really floppy. I'm going to hold my hand underneath the cardboard. I'm going to try and tap down with a body hammer. Let me show you something. You see all the little nicks in there? Now I sanded that down with a little bit of like 320. Somebody, man, like if you watch YouTube videos where they're metal shaping, they'll go berserk when they see little divots like that. And that does affect soft metals like aluminum, but I'm not gonna worry about it. I just cleaned it off so there was no outies. You know what I mean? Everything's inside there. But I just wanted to show you that some people get all bent out of shape about little divots in their body hammer like that. I'm gonna hold this up underneath here. I'm gonna use my hand kind of as a dolly. I'm going to try and tap that eyebrow down. It's not going to take much force. Like I said, this is real thin aluminum. pay no attention to that. Okay, I think that's it. I think I'm gonna hit her with a DA now. Okay, this is 320 grit sandpaper on a DA, and there's no need to really watch me. So I'm just gonna buzz this thing down. I'll stop it and show you anything if it stands out to me. All right, now, I'm nowhere near done sanding this, but this is what the guide coat does. See, it lays in those little imperfections. And I'm not saying you wouldn't necessarily be able to see those, but you can, it shows up a whole lot better with the guide coat. And remember the gouges that I sanded out, or tried to sand out? You can see how the guide coat lays in there, and you can see the orange peel and stuff. And then here's some little imperfections in the back of the panel. That eyebrow that I tapped out, it seems to be gone. So I'm gonna finish sanding that, but I just wanted to show you the advantage of using a guide coat. Yes, you can see some of this stuff without a guide coat, but like stuff like this orange peel here, that really wouldn't show up very well at all without the guide coat. All right, it's all sanded, got all the orange peel out of it. Next stop's gonna be the paint booth. Before we get in there and paint that scoop, I had taped up the center of this. This is the, this is an actual old, like, I think it's like a 81 or 83 Cobra Mustang hood. Actually, turbocharged 4-cylinder. Oh crap, the whole thing came off. Uh-oh, I'll have to glue that back on. And like, this is a super rare and super broke hood ornament. Anyway, I taped up and painted this outside of it black because the emblem's shot. As you can see, it's all crusty and everything. But for hanging from the ceiling, it'll look all right. I gotta glue that back on. And you can see the old Cobra snake in there. Gonna get you. I don't know what to do. Maybe it's not a spitting Cobra, I don't know. Whatever. But I just kind of neatened it up a little bit, and this will go. Yeah, maybe it'll go. There we go. So I'll have to glue that little emblem back in the middle there. But I'm trying to make up my mind right now because I'm getting ready to mix up the paint for the hood scoop. Whether or not I should do it satin black or shiny black. I think since it's going to be in this dusty environment, that I'm going to go ahead and make it shiny. The reason being, it is true that the satin black will hold on to the dust more, and it's going to be dusty in here. So I think I'm going to go with shiny. We'll just have to wait and see. Okay guys, this whole project's been out of scrap material and leftover. I couldn't make up my mind whether I wanted to do it shiny black or satin black or flat black. I thought I had convinced myself I was going to do it shiny black, but when I got in there, I had a little bit of black single stage left from something else and a little bit of white. So if we're going with a gray hood scoop, it's kind of Sussex Tex colors, we'll tie something black into it later. If we don't like the way it looks, we can always redo it. And by the way, I've already wiped it and tacked it off. Okay, what I put on in there was because that was single stage, is what we call the Tack Coat. Some of you, depending on which class you're in, we talked about that. That was a little bit on the wet side for a Tack Coat, but it was flat, and I went ahead and did it. I think the color's gonna look good. Like I said, if not, we'll change it. We'll give that about 5 minutes to flash off. Well, and when single stage is not really flash off, we can still call it flash time, but it's the amount of time it takes for it to get what I call finger slick, is where I can touch it without the paint stringing away from my finger, if that makes sense. Hopefully it does. Okay, it's been a good 5 minutes. I'm gonna come around here and I'm gonna touch somewhere that you can't see very well. I mean, you know when it's done? Yes. I can touch it and I can touch it and the paint's not sticking to my finger. All right, coat number 2, I'm gonna pound this one on there. Okay, if you paid attention, I put like a double coat on there for the second coat. Technically, you're not supposed to do that. It can cause solvent pops, but I don't have any heat running in there and it's cold out today. So it'll cure slowly and it won't have a solvent pop problem. You really shouldn't do that. And I definitely shouldn't have filmed myself showing you guys that, but that's the reality. That's how things go. It was already gray because of the primer, so I didn't have to put an extra coat to get it covered. It laid out good. I didn't have enough paint to do a totally two full regular extra coats. So I just put what I had in the gun on there all at one time. The extra coats give it UV protection and all that kind of stuff, and actually covered better. But we just went over the fact that it was already gray, so it's covered. And it's not gonna be out in the sun. Unless something really goes wrong with this sealing, it's gonna be in here somewhere. Like I said, we'll put that hood scoop on there. We'll see how it looks when it's gray. Looks gray. If we don't like it, we'll do something else. I actually have a little bit of that competition orange left. I had to, that's for that Comet that we did at the beginning of the year. And that customer bought solvent paint to do it. And he needed this extra piece done. And the thing is, I didn't have enough of his solvent base left. So I had to mix up a little bit of waterborne. So I got a little bit of that left. I can't give it back to the customer. He'll be paying for it, but I can't give it back to the customer because waterborne base is no good to touch anything up with because it's waterborne. And literally you could wash it off with soap and water. So I can always paint something, I don't know, I may be able to use a little bit of that orange on it. I don't know, but we'll see how it looks. Hope you're enjoying this, guys.